Welcome to the Universal Monsters Podcast, the show best defined as, it's all right. I'm your host, Jake, author of Devil's League and creator of hot quality content, and with me, as always, the creative folks of Screenplay Archaeology, Pyramid Head, a.k.a. Bruce. How you doing?
Pretty good.
And, of course, my other co-host, creator of Emerald Quill Studios and directing Tour de Force, Xander. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Tired, but good.
Same. Boom! And here we are from the future, the three of us, because we have some news that we're going to interject into the show right now. We have two fairly big pieces of news. I can't even call them that big, but one is more interesting than the other. I'm going to start with the smaller piece of news, which I think you guys are going to have more to say on than me. Universal Monsters has announced a new Invisible Man comic book project that's going to follow up with the other stuff in their same ilk. And they haven't had many details about this one yet, but if it's anything like the previous ones, it's going to tie directly into the story of the first or several movies and expand on supporting characters without actually showing the monster much. So what do you guys think? Is this exciting to you?
Well, I read a somewhat longer article where it mentioned, it's interesting that it's James Tynion writing it again because he wrote Dracula. So It's interesting that he's coming back. But I read an article where it said the longer description of it made it sound like they're focusing on the experiments and how he becomes the Invisible Man. That could be misleading, but I mean, this could be an interesting sort of corner to.
I think I might have to take back what I said if that's true, because that might be the only interesting non-monster part of the Invisible Man movie that they just do not touch on at all, is like, what did happen?
So, if they are going that direction, what I'm hearing is I need to sue Skybound for
exactly
stealing my idea.
The same way I'm suing the entirety of Epic Universe. You gotta sue Skybound. It's the only way.
So essentially what I'm hearing is the writer watched Unseen Obsession and went, that's it. I'm just kidding.
No. I will say that the second issue of The Mummy did fix my problem with the first issue, so that's looking to be a real solid series so far.
And then that one photo I saw when you guys posted in the Discord of like the blood on his like face or something, it looked really cool. So I'm just hoping mostly for some good artwork. If they get a really good artist like they did for Dracula, they can do any story they want, and I'll just be enthralled anyway. So I'm just hoping for that. I'm just hoping for some really good imagery. What I find really interesting is this isn't actually the very first comic adaptation of The Invisible Man, because there was another one. I don't remember the writer, but I have the physical book, and it's a comic adaptation of the H.G. Wells Invisible Man book, and that one's really cool.
I must have missed it the first time I looked at it, but there is an image, which I think I'm going to share right in our chat here, but it's of the hotel from the outside, and there's a dialogue box that's like looping in through the window, and the dialogue is that speech. He's like, all right, you've brought it on yourselves, that whole speech in like little bubbles. So I just like how, like, if you know, you know. If you like this movie, you know exactly what's going on, and if you don't, it's just a mystery. So that's interesting to me.
That's
cool way
cool.
to do it.
Yeah. That's cool.
No, I'm really drawn to that, honestly.
I think it could be interesting. I think they've all, at the very least, had like interesting starts to them so far. The real test will be to see how the story plays out over the course of the 4 issues, because, as I've mentioned in the past, Dracula just assumes he knows the plot, skips completely over a bunch of stuff between issues 3 and 4. And then you had, like, Creature was, like, this weird, like, kind of a sequel to the movie, but kind of not. Frankenstein was interesting, and so far The Mummy's been interesting, so I'm just curious as to see what this Invisible Man's going to be.
One day I will cave, and I will read all of the Universal Monster comics, and we're going to do an episode on it. It's not going to be soon, but I will tell you this. In a few months, my wife and I are going to go to Brazil for a couple weeks, say hi to her family and stuff. I'll have a lot of free time, a lot of flights, a lot of waiting around in an airport, so I might partake. I might educate myself on because I've read nothing, not a single thing, so I'll have to get into it. One more piece of news here. It is reactions to the Universal Monster Epic Universe theme park, Dark Universe. I called it the wrong thing. We have some significant names. James Wan, Rick Baker, and a couple others have reacted and posted like about how they feel about the park. So the first thing I'll quote here is a direct quote. Rick Baker says, "I like them all. Frankenstein's monster is what made me do what I do. That film inspired me to become a makeup artist. What I liked about it so much is that I am like Frankenstein. I create life, only it's out of rubber. James Wan talked about Creature for like a second. He was like, I like them all. Come on, I love Dracula, Frankenstein, and of course, Creature, and hard to beat Creature, obviously. The other person who is of significance at all is Jeremy Slater, who is of the Exorcist TV show. He says, I was always a Dracula kid growing up. We went on the Frankenstein experiment 6 times yesterday. It is 6 times. Fuck you, man. You got special press privileges. God, it is the greatest ride I've ever been on in my life. To be a lifelong Universal Monster fan and Creature, they're neck and neck, and just to see them brought to life and have them trying to kill you, lunging at you is incredible. There's so much love and so much attention to detail that's poured into every square inch of this park. It blew us away. It really did. And
Actually, I will say it's probably a little unfair to say he got there on 6 times. Because, like, Harry Potter ride, I know if you go single rider lane, you can get on there pretty... I don't know, because, like, it's similar, so I think you could get on 6 times.
And also, you mentioned he made Wolfman. Rick Baker made a Creature costume, but it never got used for the John Carpenter version.
Really? That's interesting that they got that far.
Yeah, there's pictures of it. I can dig them up for you. After the show, obviously.
I'm not sure that there's a soul on Earth more acquainted with Creature potential remakes than you. So
yes. Oh, I know far too much.
Danny Elfman also chimed in, who of course composed the theme music for Dark Universe, both the failed universe and the actual ride in the park, which is really funny. They kept him on for that.
And Wolfman.
He says, it's hard to say which is my favorite other than the one that I feel like I'm actually related to, which is Dracula, because I was told as a child that we have vampire in the family, which is why we can't go in the sun, and neither can my children. So I told them the same thing. It's a weird story. And then they're telling that to their children. So my grandchildren, every Elfman is told that we definitely from the old country have vampire in us, and that's why none of us can go in the sun. And it's true. Vlad on the mother's side back in Lithuania. Wow.
Damn.
It's a bit of a divergence there.
I thought he was going to say Wolfman because he composed for the Wolfman. But okay.
Yeah, he did do that, didn't he?
He didn't finish. His score in the movie is unfinished because he got replaced with someone else, and then the score was apparently received so horribly they went back to use the Elfman score, but he was off working on some Tim Burton movie by that point.
I actually really like the Wolfman score, to be honest.
Oh, it's good, yeah.
There's quite a few people in this article that are name-dropping their favorite monsters and stuff like that, and just all saying the same thing. It's the best thing ever. It's the best thing since sliced bread. I get that, but also, like, they get special privileges and go into the park early, and that guy got to go on the ride 6 times. You know, like, we're going to be lucky to get it once, ever. Jeremy
Slater, he had the TV show that got canceled, and the Death Note remake, and Fan 4 Stick.
Damn.
And he gets privileged to go to this theme park? Wow.
Although, apparently, both his drafts of those were very different from what the movie ended up being, but
I noticed that they never asked Stephen Sommers what he thought.
I mean, you know, people dog on Van Helsing, but that guy brought the world the reboot Mummy. All right.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
I'm like,
more than anyone.
Wow, they really disrespected Sommers like that. That's so unfair.
I mean, Sommers publicly slammed the Tom Cruise movie.
As well he should.
I mean,
because he said, like, what? You mean they didn't ask me about this at all before they went and did it? And I'm like, okay, cool your jets, Steven. You didn't invent the Mummy.
Yeah, A, he didn't invent it. B, at this point, who hasn't dogged on 2017's Mummy? Like, I'm pretty sure the people involved did. Alex Kurtzman was like, it's a terrible film. I was a bad director. So, like, you know.
I mean, his comments made more sense than Brendan Fraser's, but we can save that for another day. Xander, you got something you said you had?
Yeah. Well, I actually just recently, the New Beverly did a showing of the original Wolfman and the Mummy as a double feature one night. This was probably a dream come true for me, as I'm sure you know. The Wolfman, the footage was, the reel was Universal's own personal archived reel for the Wolfman. So
that's cool.
As pristine as you can get, and aside from like an original, you know, theater Ren print, that's as close as you can get from the heart of Universal. And it looked amazing, and that was so awesome. I went dressed in my Wolfman attire that I had used for Anxiety's Moon. I brought my cane. Got so many compliments, which was crazy to me. And it was honestly insane. People were clapping during the whole roll call part of the film, the beginning. Like, there was laughs. It was a great time. The Mummy was also equally great. Still, I hate to say this, it's still one of my weaker ones, but watching it on film was pretty cool. It was a festival reel. So as the interviewer, or as the guy who introduced the film said, it was probably used for people who were experimenting in a park watching it on a big old screen in the 60s. So, you know. But yeah, it was a good time too. It was interesting to watch it on film. I always like to watch things on film because I feel like it gives it a little bit more character, makes older films a bit more interesting, especially when the film's all scratchy and stuff. And this one had a good amount of scratches. So, but that's my big highlight for me. I've achieved a goal of mine, which is seeing the Wolfman on film.
Well, it's not even just that it's like an excellent like your favorite Universal monster. It's your favorite movie. So like
it is. It's my favorite
in a
movie of all
cinema on screen. I remember. So I was way too young when The Matrix came out. I was like 3, but it re-released for its 20th anniversary in 2019, and I saw it then in IMAX, and that was like a big moment for me. Like I have not seen this outside of a tube TV and my nice digital screen modern day. But like, damn, that was crazy. So that must have been wild for you.
That was like when I got to go see. When I went to go see Jurassic Park in 3D 12 years ago.
Yeah, I saw that with my mom, which was crazy because she had seen the original one. But yeah, I've only had seen the Wolfman in theaters one other time. It was when AMC was doing it, and it was a double feature with Wolfman and the Invisible Man. And I thought that was cool until I started like going to the New Beverly, and then I was like, I have to see this on actual film, which was awesome. Which is crazy too, because earlier this year, they had done Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman and House of Frankenstein as a double feature. So I've now gotten to see not only my favorite film of all time, but my childhood favorite film of all time, and my top 2, or, you know, 2 of my favorite monster movies of all time on film. And I'm just...
Awesome.
It was really cool. It was just it was a dream come true for me.
Bruce, I didn't know your favorite was Jurassic Park.
Well, it's not... I don't have a favorite movie of all time, but that's up there.
Do you, in fact, have a piece of news as well?
Yeah, I have 2 things, because there's one thing which, remember, last month, the 3 of us got together and we discussed the Dark Universe Creature from the Black Lagoon script over on Screenplay Archaeology, so there should be a link for that. There should be a link for that down below, and the clip playing right about now.
I want to point out, too, that I don't know if the line has been said. I think it was said early on, where one of them goes, hey, I think I found a backup generator that's been submerged underwater in the Amazon rainforest after a giant sea monster destroyed the entire base, all 8,000 square feet of it. So, like, I don't know, man. I mean, come on.
Hold on to your butts.
It's like saying, hey, I think I found a totaled car in this junkyard with no engine. Let's drive out of here. Like, that's what you're saying.
You know, Jake, you really shouldn't be talking about rundown trucks in the middle of nowhere still working.
What do you mean? I didn't put that in my book.
Given a certain movie that you said was really good. Anyways, Bruce, continue.
It took them a lot of work to get that working. This guy flipped the switch.
Bruce, please continue.
Yes, we need to continue. We did 2 whole fucking episodes about that movie. Enough.
Truck wasn't underwater, freaking Xander.
That was a really good clip there, Bruce. Lots of fun. I guess the only other thing I can say, just as that just reminded me, since we are talking about vampires, we just wrapped filming on a major location in my short film. So we're still in the second half. We have a bunch of outside stuff to shoot, but the huge bulk of the film we've finished all the filming for, and the last thing was shots of a coffin that we had made, so that was cool.
That's sick. Now I will cut this out if you want, but would you be generous enough to provide like a 30-second-ish clip for the show?
Yeah, I actually can. Yes, I'd love to.
Bet. Then here is Xander's preview of, what was the title?
I think this will be the first time we're name dropping it. Cold Embrace.
Good.
Cold Embrace sneak preview right now.
All right.
Hell yeah. You better start sound mixing, boy.
Like shit.
Just let Jake do the sound mixing.
Oh God. I'll put the Benny Hill theme in the background.
But yeah, I have one more. It's more of a surprise than actual real news. But I got a guy who's in my Discord server called Henry who looks out for like all these different like archives and collections of universities that might have screenplays in them. And he found something. He sent me a link to one of these, and I found something in there that was. It's not anything big. It's not anything major. It's not any of the major things I've been.
Dark Universe, Bride of Frankenstein.
No, it's not anything we've been talking about. But it's something. It's cool enough, and Jake specifically will really like this. I'm going to drop it in the chat now.
Oh boy. Oh shit.
Oh, sick!
It is an actual scanned version of the Van Helsing script. Now, I paged through it. It doesn't have the creature stuff in it, but I figured having an actual scan was cool enough to share here.
Is it like the shooting script?
God.
It's close enough. Yeah, if you look at the actual pages, you'll know which actor the script belonged to.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, this must have been shooting. There's no way it's not. Wow.
Goodness.
Oh, we have the direct dial phone numbers too, so we can, I'm sure they still work. Oh my God. Starring Hugh Jackman, X2, and Kate Beckinsale, Pearl Harbor. Name drop their nicest, best stuff. More like the most recent.
Well, I don't think Underworld was out yet, or it would just come out.
The pages are so like old and crappy. They were hand placed onto the scanner, like each individual one, and then compiled into a PDF, which must have been a pain in the ass.
The university did that.
When we were doing the Unseen Obsession, my storyboard artist, she at the time had insisted on drawing everything by hand because she did it physically. This was before I realized digital was a lot faster. So I would have to scan in all the pages, and my dumbass waited till the very end of us doing the storyboards to scan them in. So I had like about 140 pages that I had to scan. I was like, oh my God, this is awful.
I've scanned in some absurdly long scripts. The script for Dracula is like 170 something pages because formatting back in the 30s was insane.
I work at a print shop. There's a reason that like places like us, we charge like $1 per scan, because if it's one thing if you hand us like a big thing with like 300 pages and we can just put it in the feeder and hit a button and wait, that's cool. But if it's like a bunch of special documents that you gotta like place down and do this for and stand there all day, that shit's tough, man. I got empathy, whoever did that. It gets really boring really fast. But yeah, that was a dope script drop. Of course it's like a script related thing that you brought to the table here. I mean, come on. That's awesome.
That's most of what I find.
Those actually are our pieces of news for this episode. So strap in, sit back, and watch us talk about Spanish Dracula 1931, which I at the time had never seen before. So that was a first reaction from me. So check it out. Let's get into Spanish Dracula. Let's just dive right in. I have so many thoughts. For context, I want to lead the conversation here. I'd never seen this. I've seen all the classic Universal monster films. I've seen everything from like the silent films all the way up to the like Creature Walks Among Us, which is like regarded as the last classic Universal monster film. I was not really interested in seeing it because like Dracula in 1931 already is one of my favorites. I think it might, on some days you ask me, it might actually be my favorite Universal monster film. It's one or two for me with Creature Part 1. So I was never really interested in like a different alternate language version with all different actors, but it is a blind spot for me. I've never actually taken the time to sit down and watch it. So literally at 8 minutes before we hopped on this call, I finished watching this morning Spanish Dracula for the first time. And I am so well aware of original Dracula. It's burned into my mind that like I knew all the story beats. I didn't need subtitles. The version I had did not have subtitles. I had it on Internet Archive, which is fine because that story is so well knowledged for me. I got a lot to say. I just want to lead by saying it is such a weird experience. I don't think anything like it has ever been done before. Like, because this is before they had like dubbing or anything like that. So they're like, well, let's literally just like shoot the movie during the nighttime when they're shooting during the daytime on the same sets with the same script, even though it's like almost twice as long, which is crazy to me. So,
well, Well, it actually, if you really want me to get into it, it goes even further than that, Jake. If you
Please hit me with some details.
The director of it, because this was back in the day where this was actually kind of common practice for a Spanish crew to come in during the nighttime to see everything. But the director, I don't know why, but for some reason he was like, screw it, I'm just gonna go out of my way to do everything 10 times more insane than the English version. And because it was at night, he'd get access to the dailies. So he'd watch the dailies. And so if there was just a static shot of, like, say, Dracula walking down the stairs, he's like, let's do a push-in. Let's just go crazy with the camera work, crazy with the acting, crazy. He did every single thing he could to top every shot done in Dracula. And so that's why it looks as insane it is, because he already saw what he had. He's like, all right, let's do that.
That's really, I did not know that, first of all, that this is like a thing that has happened with other like major movies and stuff like that. But
Universal did a couple of these, but I don't think any of them are still in existence.
Oh, they're all lost. I have a comment here. I was like, this feels like it would have been lost. I'm glad it's not.
It was for a long time.
That makes a lot of sense then, yeah.
Yeah, there was they did an they did a sound remake of The Cat and the Canary called The Cat Creeps. And they also did a Spanish version of that, and both are lost except for like a couple minutes of footage and like that they used in like a short film.
It is significantly longer. I exaggerated saying it was twice as long. It's not really, but like it's up there compared to like using the alleged like same script and stuff like that. And like you said, Xander, taking the dailies and you trying to stay close to them. You're absolutely right. They went all out and they added so much more. And do you guys think that was a good decision, or if that improved on Dracula 1931 or not? How do you feel about that? Because I know where I stand.
I'm going to give my impression of it. I don't necessarily think it's an improvement necessarily, but I think it makes for an interesting difference. Because if it was just exactly the same, it wouldn't be as interesting to watch. The one thing I noticed is it's less showy than some of the other stuff they do, but there are scenes in the movie where they just film it backwards compared to the English version, where they're like the scene where Renfield gets off the carriage in the village. In the English version, it's from the front of the carriage, and the characters are to the right of the screen. In the Spanish version, they're shooting from the back and they're to the left. And it does that a lot that I noticed this go through, and I'm like, yeah, he's just being contrarian at this point.
Yeah, I was about to say like we're different. Ooh.
Yeah, I think what it was that because they're like, okay, here's the shot list, here's everything, just do this, and I think the director just was kind of spiteful about it. He's like, all right, fuck it, no, I'm gonna look all these dailies and I'm gonna do something completely different or better than I can.
Mm-hmm. I guess I'll just chime right in here. I am not a big fan of this movie. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it, but like it's impossible. Literally, it's actually impossible not to compare it to 1931's classic Dracula. And so when I was watching it like through and through, I was like, I don't like this as much as how they did it in that one. I wish this scene was like shorter and better paced. It felt dragged out. Like you're saying, Xander, like scenes with like the stairs, they turn it into like this big extravagant thing. What does that add for me? I feel like we're just wasting time here.
I mean, I like the changes. I don't think they're like completely unnecessary. I mean, like Bruce said, I think it's good that it like gave variation to it, and it was certainly a really good opportunity use just for the fact that they did have access to the dailies. I think the reason why I just don't find it as like preferable is just because, I mean, I hate to say it just doesn't have Bela Lugosi and
okay,
and they really are the ones that make the movie.
I will push back on that a little bit. I think Pablo Alvarez Rubio as Renfield is about as good as Dwight Frye, even if I prefer Frye. I used to hate.
Yeah, no, he did a good job.
I used to hate Carlos Villarías as Dracula, and then I watched it real closely this time on the rewatch. And when the director isn't shoving the camera in his face and having him go now mug like crazy, I think he's fine.
I'm not saying the actors are bad. I'm just saying it's
Lugosi's better. Like, I mean, that's just.
It's hard for me to. Yeah, it's hard for me to just like get into it as much. I mean, because for me, Dracula is kind of like lower on my list of like favorite films. It's pretty low on the whole 31. So for me, it's like those two actors are kind of what make the movie itself more interesting.
See, now I wish there was a Spanish Wolfman to make you sit through it.
And I could be like, it's all right, you know, it's not better than Lon Chaney or whatever. But all right, so the way I feel is I started out, I do not like Carlos Villarías in the role. His idea of like scary acting is just doing extremely wide eyes all the time. And Bruce, you're right. The director putting the camera like right here doesn't really help that much. Because when that happened in normal Dracula, it like emphasized certain scenes, like when he's like hypnotizing someone or about to kill someone. In this one, it's like all the freaking time. It's like he is, the face is the film. And
He does it to Van Helsing a lot as well.
He does. Oh, I'll talk about him and Van Helsing in a minute. They got a whole scene together that I just it takes me beside myself. But he grew on me. He grew on me as it went along, but I still never fully turned around on him. If you take Lugosi and put him in this film and have him do this, I think it would seriously improve. But like by contrast, because I don't like Carlos, I think the 1931 the normal one will get worse if they throw him in that role. It's funny how it turns around like that. I will say, Bruce, you're absolutely right. I do enjoy the actor playing Renfield. I think he is at least on par with Dwight Frye. He's really selling it. He's got big crazy vibes, and for me, he really worked. Carlos is like more crazy, but like I feel like it's just a guy trying to be more crazy. Whereas like Bella, like I bought it, you know, I'm with it. Carlos for me is like he's just too normal, if anything. Like he looks like Joe from Impractical Jokers. Like he's just like an average guy with like a receding hairline. I don't buy that he's the most powerful monster in film history. Sorry, I know Xander's got him lower on the list, but like for me, yes, Dracula's top dog. So I don't know.
There's one thing I noticed about Dracula effects-wise in the Spanish version that I never picked up on before. The mirror scene. In the English language version, they just shoot the scene. They just shoot it without Lugosi in the scene. In this version, they're looking in the mirror, and Carlos is just standing behind a door. He's standing behind a closed door. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. Maybe because they didn't have time because they were shooting at night.
I never realized that. Wow. That's so funny.
Well, it's probably also just because it's like mirrors are such an easy thing to forget about. Like you never really like it's something, and you know back then it was probably even more. And yeah, you're probably right for time and stuff like that. So they're just like, shoot, forgot about the mirror. I mean, you'll see tons of that back.
Well, it's not that they forgot about the mirror; it's that they're specifically showing he casts no reflection. Yeah, and the way they do it is to have him stand behind a partially closed door. I never noticed that before this viewing. I'm like, oh.
Well, it's funny. I want to talk about my favorite scene in normal Dracula, which is the scene where Dracula and Van Helsing are having their conversation. You know, it builds up to the reveal of the crucifix. That's like one of the best scenes in any Universal monster film.
Really?
So when that scene came up in Spanish Dracula, which is like 90% through the runtime, like you're already like over an hour in when you hit this scene. It's no pun intended. It's a night and day difference. Every aspect of the scene is just notably different. Like normal Dracula has like really creative lighting. Like Dracula's lit from the side where there's like, it's really interesting edge light. Spanish Dracula is shot like a sitcom, just flat. Every shot's like a medium shot. It's all locked off. And I don't get like that same like creative energy. And then, like, the execution, normal version starts with them on opposite ends of the room, and they slowly come together until the reveal of the crucifix, and they break apart. Spanish Dracula has them just hanging out side by side for most of the conversation, like a couple of chums just shooting the shit. So, like, I pulled up the original scene when I got that far and, like, compared them, because I love that scene, and I really wanted to see how they'd do it. And they're saying more or less the exact same dialogue as far as me and my limited Spanish understanding can tell. But I just feel like they removed so many of the stakes. And then the worst part to me, I have to mention this, is that when normal Dracula is hypnotizing Van Helsing like keeps his cool and like defies his charms. Spanish Dracula doesn't even lift the hand yet. And Spanish Van Helsing is like scared. Ooga booga. So he like clumsily reaches for the crucifix in his jacket. And for me, that just kind of neuters the coolest human character in like any of these movies. The reveal of the crucifix, normal Van Helsing reveals the item, and Dracula like freezes for a moment and then does like a hiss and flees. It really feels like a supernatural entity being like warded off. But when Spanish Dracula sees the crucifix, he makes this noise, ah, and then runs away. And I don't even know if it doesn't matter if you've seen the original or not. If you just see this version or not, that's just funny. Like I could only laugh at that. And I don't know. It just was the least intimidating thing. So for my money, every aspect of my favorite scene was worse in the Spanish one.
Indeed.
It's also elongated with the whole bit with putting the thing in the box.
Yeah, they did. They really stretched. I mean, everything's elongated.
Yeah, it's elongated, and it also feels longer because they intercut it with the Harker and Mina scene in the Spanish version, which is an interesting choice. Also, I have to talk about Van Helsing in this movie. He doesn't pull off the glasses as well. They look distracting on him.
They do.
And I just look at him and I'm like, I can only see Eugene Levy.
Now that you mention it, you're so right though. It does feel like unchecked creative talent. And I've been dogging on it a lot, which is like the negative aspects of that, but like there are some positive aspects. The atmosphere. It totally goes like deeper into it. I still think that's like a detriment overall, but you do get stronger, creepier vibes from it because you spend so much longer in those scenes. So
and
that would be one of the positive aspects.
I will say, Jake, I get what you're saying with like, why do we need like a push-in shot here or something like that? But I would argue we need a push-in shot because it makes it look more interesting. Sometimes a static image is just way too much. When you have like static, it's just... it gets too much. So yeah, you do need those more interesting shots. So I think the biggest strength of this movie is just the shot composition is very interesting, very strong. That's the one thing I'll give it, is that this has much better cinematography than the OG Dracula.
And one thing I like about it is I like some of the additional details here. Like they actually shoot a little bit more footage on the ship instead of relying entirely on stock footage. You actually get to see. I like how the brides are handled in the Spanish version, how they just appear in the room. And I also like the fact that you actually see Dracula emerge from the coffin, which is something Browning weirdly avoids showing except for once. It's so weird that he will go out of his way to pan the camera away from the coffin and then pan it back. It's something I never really understood. And I want to say one thing. Okay, there's one detail I think is hilarious because I didn't pick up on until this viewing. When Renfield dies, the sound effect they use of him hitting the floor is the same sound effect of Dracula getting staked.
Really?
That's really funny.
Yeah, it's the dunk. Ugh.
What's really interesting that you mentioned is that as much as I love 1931's classic Dracula, they do just gloss over the Demeter chapter. And I do like and appreciate in this version how they kind of go deeper into it. It's not quite as much of an adaptation as The Last Voyage of the Demeter from a couple years ago, but you can't shove a 2 hours worth of adaptation into this tiny little part of the film. No. But they still do more, and I would say that aspect is an improvement.
And you actually get establishing shots of Carfax Abbey in this one. You actually see the building, which I thought that was cool because they clearly had that on hand for the other version.
I think the acting, by and large, is weaker. So, like, in the scenes where it's just dialogue, in normal Dracula, there's a lot of scenes where it's, like, subtle, and, like, they're just talking like this, and they're slowly building to their points, and then as the points emerge, it becomes clear to everyone. But in Spanish Dracula, everything is just, like, almost shouted, like, blah, blah, blah. It's like if you put Bela in this film, it'd get better. Totally agree. I think you should just swap casts. Like, if you take the cast of that one and just throw it in here, I think it'd go way up.
And I do have one very, very large compliment. It fills in a plot hole from the English language version. It actually addresses the fact that Lucy became a vampire.
Yeah, that's true. The original movie really doesn't.
Yeah, Jake, you probably missed it because you didn't have subtitles. But they show the aftermath of Lucy having been staked. You see Van Helsing and Harker come out of like the cemetery gate, and they mention, "Oh, you freed that poor girl's soul." So yeah, they fixed that problem, and you could see where that would go in the English language version. It's just not there.
Well, I thought it was funny. Like, the reason why I watched the version I did was because, A, it was immediately free. It was Internet Archive. It's, like, the easiest thing to find. But, B, I was like, oh, they're using the same script, and even the dailies are trying to, like, go off of. So, clearly, I've seen this film. I don't really need to like get a new like set of subtitles. But obviously, now that I've watched it, it's like, wow, there's so much more to it. I can still interpret what's going on, but like this is a deeper version of the script.
But they probably didn't cut anything from the shooting script for this version because Universal was just like, I'll put it out there.
Yeah,
screw it. It's the real Zack Snyder's Dracula 1931. Just throw the whole damn thing, regardless of if you should or not.
There was not enough slow motion in there.
On the fact that it's such a weird experience, I kept comparing it to like my favorite movie is The Matrix. Like, imagine if they waited until Keanu Reeves and the Wachowskis went home for the day and a different team of actors and filmmakers went to the same sets and used the exact same script in Spanish. Like, it's not a student film. It's not a fan film. It has the budget of the original movie, and it's made by the same studio at the exact same time. I can't even, like, process that would even exist. So, like, for me, and again, I haven't seen other versions of films that have done this. I wasn't even aware that they were a thing until mentioned at the start of the show. So, like, I'm just still trying to wrap my brain around it. For me, it's the only example I've personally seen. So it was strange as like a first dip into that world.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's like a lot of them nowadays, but yeah, it's a really trippy one, that's for sure. This is literally in the beginning of like when we were able to do sound, and that's why like a lot of the early films and stuff won't have much music because everyone in the film industry was like, oh, what do we do? How do we mix all this? And so
I love that every time that like a major change in Hollywood happens, there's always like bajillions of critics saying this is gonna ruin everything that came before. You're gonna add music to a picture? Why would you do that? It's great on its own. It's gonna ruin. And then you're gonna add talking? Why would you want them to talk? The music is great. We complained about 10 minutes.
I'm actually thinking everyone was happy that there was talking. Like, I think that was like a huge thing. Like,
you'd figure, but there were absolutely people out there like, oh, this is gonna ruin the silent film experience. Like every time they make a change, it's just they just don't know what the hell they do.
But yeah,
it's also.
Oh,
I was gonna say it's also worth noting that it's so early in the sound era that they actually made a silent version of this movie for theaters that weren't wired yet.
And then the reason why they did Spanish is because Spanish is like the biggest foreign language in America.
I guess that makes sense.
That's why there's like you get like a lot of Spanish subtitles and everything like that. It's like it's the most well-known one.
Speaking of subtitles, I actually have to point this out. The Blu-ray actually doesn't have subtitles for the newspaper article.
Interesting.
They're like, it's fine. You've seen the original plenty of times. You know what it says.
You've read the book.
Yeah.
You know what's going on.
Well, what's funny is that I'm pretty sure the DVD did have subtitles for that. But the DVD also didn't have standard subtitles. It just had the closed captions for the hearing impaired. So if you wanted to watch the movie and know what they were saying, you also had to get every sound effect spelled out. And considering in this version, the doors opening in Castle Dracula, that's very elongated. You get like a very lengthy shot of the film where there's just the sound effect going creep across the bottom.
You know, I will say that when he says I am Dracula, it doesn't have the same, because that's my favorite scene in Dracula is when, you know, you have the wide shot and everything, it comes up and he goes, I am Dracula. I mean, no offense to the guy playing him, and what was his name again? I can't remember.
Carlos something.
No offense to Carlos
Villarías.
But it's just like, I don't know. Bela Lugosi hit that I am Dracula. That was a lightning in a bottle moment, and I don't think it can ever be recreated ever again. Unfortunately,
no, of course not. It's such a. That whole movie is full of like really quotable lines, all of which come from Bela, obviously.
Yeah, it's the way he says it, and like it's just like when he says "Yo soy Dracula," it's not the same, unfortunately.
It's not the same. That's your introduction to him, so it's like it's not the right foot.
That's another thing I noticed this time around is that the dialogue scenes are shot like for all the crazy camera work the Spanish version has. The dialogue scenes are generally shot kind of wide. They don't cut to the characters while they're talking.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, every shot is like kind of a medium or a wide shot, and it's all just like sometimes they don't even shot reverse shot. They just kind of keep it in a room, which I guess is similar to a play. And 1931's classic Dracula is not exactly not guilty of this too.
Oh yeah,
they have their fair share of like play-like scenes.
Oh no, 1931's is like if you told me it's just like it was like shot on like a play stage or something, I believe you. Like that movie is completely shot like a play.
That's actually kind of my only real main criticism of the classic Dracula is that it doesn't feel as much like a film. This one, though, yeah, aspects feel more, but like I guess that's my thing where it's like it has more cinematography. I don't know if that's always a good thing. It just literally volume-wise has more of it. So in aspects it's better, and then some parts it's just inferior.
One thing is that the infamous cardboard over the lamp from the English version, there's not even a bedside lamp in this version. There's not even a lamp there.
Pro saw the lamp and said, "Get rid of it! Toss it! I see that cardboard! Get rid of it!"
He's watching the Daily. He's like, they have a lamp. I don't want a lamp. Ew.
Fuck
This is
the
my
lamp.
different version. Do 10 shots of his face and then one of his balls and then throw it all in the film.
When you talk about like whether or not a cinematic shot is really necessary, I mean, coming from someone who makes who's making short films and everything, I feel like for the audience, more interesting shots is better, but really it's just a question of if you have the time, because shots like even a push-in takes so much time to set up versus just the static shot. And so production-wise, yeah, it's very much of a question of, okay, do I really need every single shot to be unique? The answer is no, because then you double up your entire film production time and you're crying because you've only gotten 2 shots done. Story for another time. But in terms of like the viewer and stuff, I would argue that it's always good to have more interesting angles and stuff. Like, yeah, sure, it makes the runtime a bit longer, but if a camera angle is interesting to look at, that catches that catches my attention a lot more. That's why I always tout Son of Dracula as one of the better ones, is because that one has a lot more interesting cinematography than the regular Dracula.
I think I respect this movie more than I actually enjoyed watching it, because like I really appreciate that they could have absolutely done what I thought they were going to do and just use the same script, same pacing, same shots, just reshoot everything, just one for one, and make it like an uninteresting version of that film. But the director actually went, fuck it, let's try something crazy and different. And even though I don't think everything that they chose to do worked, in my opinion, I still applaud them for actually, like, I don't know, giving some level of like effort and difference, even though we are kind of speculating correctly, I think, where we're just like, okay, this is the American version, let's do something different just for the sake of doing something different. Let's not include this. Let's include that instead. But no, I do appreciate that they did like try and, I don't know, try. I think that's the key word there.
No, yeah, it's definitely easier, like you were saying, when you have a skeleton. So when you already have everything, you're just like, okay, well, let's just go off this and everything. So it's definitely the director really took, he took advantage of the fact that he had all this available to him.
I do like when Renfield's riding in the carriage to the castle, you can see the fire off in the distance, which isn't addressed in the movie at all, but it's a neat little detail from the book.
That's cool. Interesting. Bruce, every detail that you've said so far, I'm like, holy shit, I didn't even pick that up.
Although it is really funny, in the longer carriage scenes, I start noticing, like, oh, I know this filming location. It's been in like 1,000 different things. That's the rocks from that Star Trek episode. I actually wanted to point out the lower quality portion of the movie. When they first found it again, I think in like the late 70s, there was like a reel missing. And they found that later on in like the late 80s, I think. So it could just be the condition of that reel.
I appreciate how you see Carlos in the role. You make some good points. However, I can't agree with you in the cab scene. I think Bela is sufficiently creepy as the coach driver. So that's just
my only note on the coach scene is that at least he actually has his face covered.
That is true.
I'm sorry, I could never take Bela Lugosi Coach Driver seriously.
What?
He just looked so ridiculous.
Maybe I'm the
with
crazy
how he
one.
Was just like, if he had like wrapped up in the bonnet kind of thing, I don't know, man. I always looked down, I was like, he's mid.
But yeah, that is definitely the same shot of his eyes over and over again, which is a good close-up shot, unlike some of the others.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just got graced with the presence of my lovely wife. Sorry, for context behind the scenes, we're painting a different room. So there's a ton of like random crap in this room that like, cause this is the extra room. So you know.
Yeah.
But this is also the only time where all of our time zones line up. So we're making lemonade out of lemon.
Right. I noticed the shoe thing. I was like, oh, shoe. Okay.
Yeah, this is her shoe carousel. Some days she hates every single pair, so please enjoy.
Well, if she hates them enough, you can get rid of them and you can make more room for popcorn buckets on it.
No, it's a paradox. She hates them all, but you can't get rid of them. It's impossible.
This is one of those interesting things because I first learned about this through the VHS tapes. When I was a kid, I would rent them, and some of them would have the longer ad at the beginning, and they just go straight through them. And I'm like, what the heck is Spanish Dracula? And it's just, I saw part of it on TV, and then I had it in the Legacy Collection DVD set, and that's where I first saw the whole thing.
Is it in a lot of the Legacy collections? Like, because they've made like every like decade or so, they'll make like a new full collection.
It was in the it was in that initial VHS line. It was on the Legacy Collection DVD that came out as a Van Helsing tie-in, and then it's on the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
I think they've just kept releasing it.
That would just about wrap up our show. So with all that down and out of the way, have a great day. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Where's your sense of adventure?
I'll be seeing you again.
You guys are trying to make those things things. They're not things. They never were things.